Well, welcome to the Stanley Street Social Podcast. My name's Alex Clemens. I'm here with Melbourne Football Club captain Maxi Gorn. Welcome, Maxi.
Thanks, Alex. Not a great Monday to be the Melbourne Football Club captain.
I wasn't going to bring that up, but yep.
No, it's always a great day to be the Melbourne Football Club captain. We lost, but I got to go to Gather Round, which was fun. We got to play in front of 40,000 people, which was also fun. We just lost to Essendon again.
Yep. I'm a good friend of the social club now. Another Carlton supporter, friend of Plappy, friend of the Carlton Football Club, Matthew Kennan. Welcome, Kennan.
Good to be here. Now, Max, when you're playing Gather Round,
Yes.
and it's two neutral teams at Adelaide Oval, how different is the atmosphere versus playing Port or Adelaide?
The handy thing for us, well, it's been unhandy because we've lost to Essendon 3 times in a row. But Essendon have a lot of supporters.
Still.
Yeah, when that final siren went and I looked around the crowd, I reckon 30 of the 38,000 were Bomber supporters. Like, they all travelled.
It's a big club.
Yeah, they've all travelled and they were 0-4. Like, that's a big club, a big powerhouse just waiting to be born again.
That's a committed supporter base.
Yeah.
So for a lot of people, their sport is their outlet and it's the release from might be a bad week at work. For you, if you have a bad game, does cycling help you switch off from the game?
Yeah, it certainly does. We play a lot of Sunday games, which is normally good for the Sunday night classics, but I had to wait a night for Paris-Roubaix this time. So mine was the Basque Country. watching Andrew August get a breakaway win. That was my late night watching to get my mind off footy. But cycling plays a great role for me in that because it is on weekends at night.
Yeah.
So it's the perfect thing to come home and I don't have to watch Port Adelaide St Kilda. I can put on Paris-Roubaix.
What about when you got a late night? Say the tour's on and you got a night game on Saturday. Because if you finish a night game, what time do you get home?
In the 11s.
Yeah. So then how long does it take you to get to sleep after a game like that?
I can get to sleep okay, but for some reason my mind's still going, so I wake up. So let's say I get home at 11, I'd go to sleep at 12, but I wake up at 4.
Yeah, right.
So I can't stay asleep after a night game.
And then you're straight onto SBS On Demand watching the highlights.
SBS. So that is, I mean, I don't know where this has come from, but let's talk about my Tour de France routine. I would probably watch the break form, then I'd turn my phone off, because obviously I follow a lot of cycling algorithms that will spoil the results. And then I wake up and watch the last, if it's a sprint stage, I'll just watch the highlights. If I know it's a good stage, I'll watch the last 2 hours, last hour.
Nice.
What time did you get home last night?
After we did the men's race, then we did the women's race, I got home at 3:10.
Talk about commitment to the Stanley Street Social.
That's brutal.
So but I got to bed at 4:00.
Yeah.
So I had a hot shower.
Yeah.
And then I'm reading Swain Tuff's book, actually, which is really interesting. There's a lot of non-cycling related stuff in Swain Tuff's book.
Yeah.
And then I turned the lights off at 4:00. I got to sleep straight away and I woke up. I had my alarm set for 10 because I don't want to sleep in too long because then that'll ruin tonight's sleep. Yeah, that'll completely throw me out of rhythm. So I woke up just before 10 o'clock.
It's almost worth trying to get back over there, isn't it, to cover the race?
I'd love to commentate Paris-Roubaix from the Velodrome.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
And it looked extremely cool last night.
Yeah. Is anyone in the Velodrome?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's commentary from in the Velodrome, and there's also a bunch of trucks that are just like you would see at a broadcast for a football game. Lots of trucks on the outside.
Yeah.
So are you getting drowsy by the end of that call? Like
No.
if we're talking 3:30 in the morning?
No, not even close. How can you? Particularly when you come into the crescendo, there's some stages. I've had a couple of text messages from this guy when there's been one rider off the front in a Grand Tour with a headwind and he just says, good luck. There's no other context for it.
Well, last night you didn't even get a break.
Wasn't that incredible?
Yes.
Like 100 kilometres, no breakaway. They averaged 53 kilometres per hour for the first 2 hours almost.
Quickest Paris-Roubaix ever?
Yeah, by 1 kilometre per hour.
Wow.
So of the 5 fastest editions, they've all been across the last 5 years. Not in order, but the last 5 years have been the fastest 5 editions.
Yeah.
Prior to that, it was 2017 with Van Avermaet. Before that, it was way back in 1965 with Peter Post. So it took a long time to break the record of Peter Post.
What were they doing in 65?
Don't ask those questions, mate. The anti-doping wasn't quite as strong as it is now either.
They did check the bikes as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a recipe for the fastest edition ever, though. No breakaway.
Slight
big
tailwind.
groups going up the road.
Yeah.
Dry.
was perfect conditions. And it would have been so tense in the peloton going into the first cobbled sector at Troisville.
Have we seen that before? No breakaway?
In recent years, I can't remember it happening. It might have happened in the past, but in the times that I've commentated on it, I haven't seen it.
Yep. Surely the pro Conti teams that have been invited to the race would be slightly angry they wouldn't just give Team Flanders a minute to get up the road.
Well, it wasn't for lack of trying. We saw Unibet Rose Rockets, the Modern Adventure cycling team, George Hencappy's team, they were trying. Flanders Belloise, they were trying. But it wasn't only them. Every other World Tour team, with the exception of Visma and UAE and Alpecin, were trying to get in the breakaway.
Well, it's famously, I think last year, Jonas Ruch come sixth from the breakaway. So everyone sees that and goes, let's do that.
Yeah. If Jonas can do it, I'm a chance. Whereas you see at Milan-San Remo, within 20 Ks, the break is gone. Flanders, within 40 Ks, the break is gone. But no break last night.
It's the one race of the year where you can almost pin on that you're a chance from the breakaway.
Well, Heyman and
you're in the race from the breakaway.
Yeah, Heyman and O'Grady both were in an early breakaway that got them ahead of some of the chaos, which helped them be able to win. Johan van Summeren, when he won, it was from the early breakaway. Going back to last century, the biggest breakaway that's been successful, there's a break went with Thomas Wegmuller and Dirk de Mol with 222 kilometres to go in 1988, and they didn't get caught. They won the race.
Wow. Because I feel like the last 40K, if you get caught, that's not the hardest part of the race. It is from an attrition point of view.
Yes.
Yes.
It's not from a speed point of view. So most races, particularly when you look at stages of the Tour de France, the average speed of the day increases the closer you get to the finish line. And this is a race, the only race that I can think of where the average speed declines the closer you get to the finish line, when it's flat. Obviously, in mountain stages, it decreases when they get towards the top of a mountain. But for a flat race, it's the only one that I can think of where the average speed declines the closer you get to the finish line.
Because that middle part is just...
It's just a punish.
Oh.
It's fatigue. It is death by 1,000 pecks of the beak from a duck. It is unbelievable.
Have you ever been there? Have you ever ridden these sectors?
I've ridden some of the sectors, but that was like in 1997. And just a couple of sectors, not the whole lot of them.
Have you?
No. I've ridden Flanders, under 23 Flanders.
How'd you go?
Yeah. Teammate won.
Did you do anything to help?
I let him out into the Koppenberg.
Okay, well done.
Thank you.
And then how'd you go up the Koppenberg?
I walked with... Only 2 riders didn't walk up there.
Okay, it was a bad day.
It was a wet day.
It was a wet day.
Was that with Edmo?
Edmo went on to win.
Fantastic.
That's a great story.
Roubaix cobbles, from what I'm told,
they're
is
totally
like,
different.
We're like talking a whole nother ball game.
Yeah, it's totally different. It's like the difference between a soft white bread and a sourdough. Yeah. Like they are worlds apart. It's the same product, but it's a completely different outcome. They're much bigger. There's bigger gaps between them. And the climbs that you ride up in the Tour of Flanders, but also those roads are used a lot more than the ones at Paris-Roubaix. I mean, what bike race, what event do you see where the groundskeeper is a goat? Like, you get to play the MCG, it's a perfect service. They put goats on the cobblestones to try and chew away some of the grass.
Nice. Max, your preview popped off again. Have you seen them yet, Kennan? Yeah.
I'm throwing some names out there and landing a couple. Now,
which is back-to-back.
Everyone that does previews always says this, but Wout van Aert was secretly my tip, but I felt like chucking Pog out there to win.
Yeah.
And I feel like I was still justified. Pog had 3 punches. Wout was unbelievable. Mathieu van der Poel, I thought he didn't have the legs, but it showed that he did have the legs. So, but I threw out Turgi, who rode really well. The Van Dijk boys, which we don't know which one's which.
Yeah.
Again, they've stitched you up.
Tell me that it was not Tim Van Dijk that was in that lead group.
So Keno, for those that listen to the podcast, knows his rider ID is unbelievable. Apart from the Van Dijk brothers,
rider ID and history, like we can go back into the
just
decades.
Cannot pick which Van Dijk brother is which. Last night, I'll just read the quote. The top 10 have all given a quote post the race. Mathieu van der Poel was more than 2 minutes behind, etc., etc. Mick Van Dijk, and you're already thinking, oh, Mick, I thought it was Tim that was in the top 10. Mick Van Dijk has commented, I got my race numbers in the mail this morning, which is a hilarious way to get your race numbers.
The day of the race.
It's the team's responsibility to check if they are for Tim or are they for Mick. In any case, they were for a Van Dijk, just not the right one. Mick rode with my numbers and I rode with his, and I only realised at the finish that I'd been riding with the wrong numbers.
So they are hard enough to tell apart as they are, because sometimes one of them's running a bit of a 5 o'clock shadow. The other time they're cleanly shadow. It changes all the time. They are identical twins as far as I know. They're impossible to tell apart. At least, Max, put the right number on. Give me a chance.
So you thought you've nailed it last night, calling it, I got to remember, Tim the whole time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Tim.
Well, Tim finished second at Omloop Het News Blad. So he started the season really well. He's been fantastic in the classics. He was awesome at Paris-Nice. It was logical that it was going to be Tim, because it was Tim's number that went across the finish line inside the top 10.
Oh, and are we talking similar pedaling styles, similar strengths? Like there's no...
We're talking, it's as if one of them has been recreated as an AI bot of the other one.
Yeah.
It is impossible to tell them apart if they're in the same kit, same helmet, same shoes, and wearing the wrong number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also didn't have MVP in my top 3, which has aged really well.
Yeah.
That is outrageous.
Aged
You
really
happy
well.
with that?
Didn't have Stuyven, but I did have Pedersen, who's his best mate. But
So you had Pedersen.
I had Pedersen at 3rd.
Yeah, and that would have been a pretty reasonable pick.
Yes.
I didn't have Stuyven on the podium either.
No,
He's
had an unbelievable classic season,
hasn't he?
Yeah,
Not the
he's
first
riding
time
really
he's taken a flyer in a classic and it's paid off.
Yeah, his quote in that as well was he was actually scared about attacking and wasn't himself while riding.
Yeah, right.
And then just went
As in, like,
for it with 10k to go.
Scared how the feeling would be.
Yeah, he
Jump on that pedals.
he
And go,
thought he shouldn't have attacked based on who was around him.
Well, that's too much respect for your opponents.
It
Isn't
is,
Like
It
you got to
is.
have respect but not fear them.
which I think last night was the answer to the boys' club. I'm not sure if you listened last week, Keno, but we're just discussing a little bit around how much these guys are helping Pog ride.
Mhm.
And maybe they should just sit on his wheel and let UAE do a little bit more work than helping them. I think Wout absolutely nailed it last night.
Yeah, and he obviously backed himself going into the velodrome with him.
Yep.
But even before that, you look at the way Van Aert rode the Arenberg Forest. He was the one on the front driving it. He was confident even against Van der Poel, before Van der Poel had his mechanical problem. And then when he was with Tadej, he was under pressure a couple of times, didn't really get gapped by more than a bike length or so.
No.
And you could see that Tadej was really conscious of Wout being there, because there was a couple of times through the corners, Tadej almost lost it. He was trying his hardest to get rid of him. And when it came to the sprint, Van Aert made no mistakes.
almost lost it to the point where his back wheel was almost around in front of his front wheel.
Yeah,
But
caught up with his front wheel, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Well, also, he was riding the whole race in good position. The team was around him.
It was
He
a
had guys
completely
around him.
different Paris-Roubaix.
We were talking about last week in Flanders.
Mm.
His team was everywhere.
Yeah.
He was everywhere. He was missing splits. He was using up guys to get to the front.
Even last Paris-Roubaix, Matty Brennan was making the group before him. Like that was just Brennan did an amazing lead out. Did you see his lead out?
Yeah.
It was a different Wout van Aert.
Yeah, and Christophe Laporte being there with him was really important as well. Christophe Laporte was fantastic.
Yeah.
As for teammates, I haven't looked at the run sheet, by the way, Alex, so I'm not sure that I'm following any script here. But as for teammates, the rider that gets undervalued at UAE in these races is Juan Sebastian Milano. So he was the guy that did a lot of the work early.
Yep.
He's a second-tier sprinter, doesn't win much as a sprinter, but sprinters, the mentality, they can always ride really good position. So the early mechanical problems that Tadej had, Milano was the first one back there to get him. When all the chaos was happening, Milano was the one that was doing so much of the work to try and get Pogacar back into contention.
Yep.
This is a guy that I first saw at the Tour of Taihu Lake in 2019 when he just signed a World Tour contract. But one of his teammates was on the brink of getting one. So he was leading his teammate out and with 10 metres to go, grabbing the anchors so as his teammate would get past him and grab the win. Juan Sebastian Milano is a ripper and he did a fantastic job last night for Tadej.
And he's so handy for UAE because he doesn't need a lead out. So he can go do a lot of work for Pog. And then when it is a bunch sprint stage, he can actually just jump in there and have a crack.
Yeah, I rate him.
Although Pog's done a couple of lead outs for him as well.
Yeah, and the fact that Pog does those lead outs for him shows that he values the work that Milano does.
Well, I mean, Pog's fingerprints are over his classics teams. He picks the classics teams, doesn't he?
Yeah.
That's who he wants to be out there. And he's picked Milano.
There wouldn't be much that he wouldn't have 100% say on.
Yeah, correct. There was a bit confusing last night when Pog had his first mech.
Yes.
A few boys took a while to get back and help.
Yeah, they did. And Niels Pollitt, you could see that he was having an argument with at least one of his teammates. It was Mikael Bial, and he was saying, we need to wait. If you are the marketing manager at Shimano. How happy are you with Tadej being on one of your bikes for 5 kilometres?
They would have got a few photos.
I still get confused about that sponsorship though,
Why?
because it's like Shimano's obviously a top tier brand, arguably the best. And then they have these shitty team bikes that no one wants to ride, that it just has bike riders on going backwards on. And I get that they're in the race, there's a big blue brand, it's Shimano stickering. Shimano neutral spares though, I'm not sure what that does for the brand.
It keeps their competitors out of the market. So it is, again, it's just about brand awareness. It stops it from being SRAM do it in some races, but they're their biggest competitors now, not Campagnolo. It is about defending your market position rather than growing it, I would say, for Shimano.
Anyone jumps on a Shimano spare bike, they just look horrible on it.
It's an impossible task. They don't make bikes. They can never have the perfect size. We've seen there's pedals.
They've got dropper posts though on the bikes, and they look to who the key favourites are and have a bike that's going to be close to be able to fit for them. So they would have had a bike that was close to the size for Van der Poel and Van Aert. That would be pretty much interchangeable between those two. A bike for Tadej, but the average height of the riders in Paris-Roubaix is 185 centimetres. It's the tallest average height in a bike race in the World Tour, and Tadej is 176, and that bike was on the outside of the car on the roof, so in the prime position, and it was the right size for one of the shortest guys in the race. That's not a coincidence.
I'm trying to think who else would be around that size that had to do Paris-Roubaix yesterday.
And that was part of the problem. So for Pogacar to have a teammate to swap bikes with, there's not much of an option there. Whereas
Is Vermeesh about the same?
No, he's much taller.
Tall.
Yeah, he's definitely much taller.
And then obviously Niels is massive.
Yeah, exactly. Can you remember the Roubaix stage that Simon Clark won? Yep. And Jonas Vingegaard had the mechanical problem. Yep. And Van Hooydonk's instincts were great. Here, swap, take mine. He couldn't get over the seat tube. It was, well, the top tube, I should say.
It never disappoints in terms of some kind of team chaos in these events. Was it punches galore though? Like, obviously, we're riding over the cobbles. It's going to naturally be punches. But with tech getting better, you would assume that this is going to go down.
Yeah. It's the most I've seen.
It was crazy.
Potentially dry. Does dry not help the puncher? On the cobbles?
Creating more.
Yeah, when it's really dry.
Well, they're going faster, so they're hitting the cobbles with a greater impact.
Yeah.
And I've never read so much tech talk leading into a Paris-Roubaix. And the tyre companies are talking about all the improvements that they've made. They're using bigger bag tyres, 35 on the front for Tadej with a 32 on the back, 32 mil. But there are more punches than I've seen in recent years at Roubaix. Yeah. I don't know why. Other than just they're going so fast, they're not quite able to pick their lines as cleanly. And if Van der Poel is punching, it's not a skill level issue of the rider.
We might as well get right into Paris-Roubaix. We already sort of
we're into it.
We go skip straight to the Arenberg. Is that where we get into? Or
I think so. If we're talking about Van der Poel,
Pog had a mech before that.
Yes.
And chased and got back. And got back just in time for Arenberg. Literally, it was very Milan San Remo. Orion waited for him, took him straight to the front, just rode straight to the front. It's like Pog's going to attack straight up. That was I thought what was going to happen. And Alpecin then got themselves into trouble. There's some things that will stay in my mind. Chris Froome running up the mountains, one. Mathieu Van der Poel running through the Arenberg forest looking for a bike. Backwards is right up there.
With a teammate here.
Everything was happening. Philipsen, beautiful. He obviously, Van der Poel said that Philipsen didn't have the legs, so was going to drop anyway. Why not have my bike? Yep. Don't use the same pedals.
Yep.
Has come out. And then also Del Grosso, who was changing his front tyre behind over 50 metres back, Van der Poel running between them. It was comical watching.
Keno, when was the last time Shimano changed their pedal design?
That caught me by surprise.
Like that pedal has been the same for as long as I can remember.
Yeah, and the cleat has been the same. But there's a different cleat because it's a lower stack and slightly broader plate, and they look the same. And I was surprised that you've got two guys in the same team running different pedals.
Particularly the ones that are most likely to be in a group together.
In this race.
Yeah, that really caught me by surprise.
If you look for Alpecin, majority of them are going to get dropped, apart from Jasper and maybe Del Grosso, and they didn't have him on the same pedal.
Yeah.
When I was trying to work it out, what was going on, my phone blew up with about 17 messages from different people showing me the prototype Shimano one. And I was aware of the prototype Shimano pedal, but I wasn't expecting one of them to be on it and one of them not to be on it. And I couldn't, at first I thought, maybe because he was, in the mud, his cleats have filled up with mud and he's having trouble pushing these shoes into the pedals. But no, it was the different pedals.
What's ideal scenario for them there? Is it potentially Jasper stays with the group, Van der Poel changes his bike, Jasper then paces him back?
Yes.
That's ideal.
Yeah, that is ideal. But the challenge is, though, the cars get caught so far behind because if there's only a 30-second gap between the groups, the commissaires don't let the cars come past because that would close down the gaps. So the team car is not behind the group that you're in. The team car is behind the group that is a minute and 30 seconds back sometimes because there's a group at 30 seconds, a group at 30 seconds, another group. So it can take an age for them to come back. But then when he exited there, he was at 2 minutes behind. And your initial thought is 100 Ks to go, he's 2 minutes behind, it's over. But he won last year solo. He was a minute and 17 seconds ahead of Pogacar. And he was 2 minutes and 11 seconds ahead of third place with Mads Pedersen. So it was still doable.
Yeah. And, I mean, he got within, what to get to?
Sturven was 13 seconds behind in third place.
Yeah.
So, and they were, for a long time, they were at about 35, 40 seconds.
We missed an opportunity to see Van der Poel riding Philipsen's bike through the Arenberg, though.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have looked that different on tally.
Yeah, you would have seen him look uncomfortable, I think so.
First time ever.
Yeah, first time ever, correct. He got a minute like that, Van der Poel. It went to a minute real quickly, and he had not much help. Ghana eventually come to help, and again, crash. I'm not sure if Paris-Roubaix is for Ghana.
He was a disappointment of the race for me, Filippo Ganna. And I'm interested in the psychology of athlete competing. Him skipping Flanders, he went back home to Italy for a week or so and then flew back up to the north to get ready for Roubaix. From a psychology perspective, do you think it's better that he had have raced Flanders?
So that's an abnormal preparation for him, would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. I reckon the continuity, because these guys, Pog talks about it all the time, that he races very little time actually racing his bike. He's like one race a month type setup. Like he's very rarely on his bike. So he's got to try and find that race fitness somewhere. So that's the hardest thing to gain. So Garner's voluntarily given that up. He wouldn't have got a result at Flanders. Maybe could have got a top 10.
Possibly. Yeah. But I think it would have kept him in the groove.
Yeah, it's gone the same way as it did last year, though. So, and last year he did Flanders, I think.
Yeah.
He punctured. He fell off his bike with a puncher, which was bad timing. But he just didn't look great, even with both like before the punches. He just didn't look like Ineos. Like, I mean, you've written it on the agenda. Ineos were winning the day early on. The positioning was great, but I just don't think they had the rider.
Yeah, they didn't have the silver bullet.
No,
they got the team around him though.
Yeah,
like the muscles there.
The team's been really good this year. It's the best they've been for 5+ seasons.
Yeah,
which I'm actually enjoying seeing because the Skybots, there used to be heaps of criticism of them because they won through just suffocating the race.
I've never heard Skybots. I like that.
It was really boring racing, but effective. They were boringly brilliant.
Yeah.
And now to see them come back, it's almost not redemption, but it's good to see them back in the mix. I think they're good for cycling.
I like it when it's Brits as well. When it's Tarling and Turner and Swift and Watson and
you like to see the homegrown element.
Yeah, and they're all big boys.
Bit of national pride.
I reckon Tarling's their one for Paris-Roubaix at some point.
Yes.
Yeah. He was doing a lot of work last night.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, and he's still only 22, which for Roubaix, he's a baby.
Yeah.
There was a moment there where when Ganna punctured that Van der Poel and him linked up, it was like, hang on a minute. Van der Poel was at 2 minutes. There's a chance here.
Yeah, and there were other Ineos guys in that group. So for me, I thought if Van der Poel, when he gets across to that group, then he's going to get some support. But he didn't get that much support, really. He ended up still going straight to the front and doing a lot of the pacemaking.
He did that, and he also did a lot of work when Poggi was trying to get back on.
Yeah.
He had teammates in the group, and he attacked on that couple of seconds.
Sending it.
Was he getting a bit excited?
Yeah, because wouldn't you want to get away from Tadej?
Yeah.
I totally understand that tactic. And this is a guy that has shown already that he can go long range. He can do long attacks, and he always has right from the very beginning of his career. And this is the one race we see at the Tour de France. If one of the big favourites has a mechanical problem with 100 Ks to go, there's kind of an agreement and they wait for each other. Not here. Avoiding bad luck is part of the race.
He must have been listening last week, MBDP. Didn't want the boys club anymore. That's anti-boys club. Riding while Pog has a mech.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good from MBDP. I like that.
I like in this race though that too. There's no gentleman's rules around riding if someone has mechanical.
No,
you're just racing all day under the assumption that you're going to have a mechanical at some point.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be in this race.
Your boy, Wout van Aert.
Yep.
Or how do we pronounce it?
Wout.
I've got 2 voice notes to play later on that.
Okay.
We've been getting some listener feedback after. Did you listen to the Ed Langdon pod?
No.
Last Monday. It was.
He sat in your seat as a friend of the podcast.
It's nice.
He was quite good.
So I was naturally in Melbourne Football Club heaven, just talking sport too. He was good, but the thing that he brought is pronunciations.
He was
Exceptional.
strong in that. Yeah, which is my absolute weakness. What is the Flanders Hill again? Quarmont. Is that how I say it?
But the key is passion.
Your boy, you've been talking about him for a few weeks.
I've been on
now.
him the whole cycling, the whole Belgium season. I feel like he's been riding incredibly well.
This is Van Aert we're talking about.
Yes.
Yep.
I felt like he's been getting dropped on some climbs that Pog would drop anyone on.
Yep.
And then post those climbs is holding gaps. So still riding well and rode extremely well at Flanders. I was bullish on him. I just didn't know when it was going to be. He obviously had the one where Garner pipped him on the line in a midweeker in Belgium. What was that, Dawes?
London.
Yep. So I saw this coming. Did I see him winning? It's Van Aert. He rarely wins. I didn't see him genuinely winning, but I'm so happy it happened.
His eldest son, who still is only, I think, maybe 5 or 6, when Wout finished 4th in one of the recent editions, and his son was maybe 2 or 3, he said, "Dad, why do you always finish 4th?" And then you saw the footage of him with his son last night. It was beautiful. How good was his post-race interview?
Yeah, really good. Humble. Paid homage to the teammate.
Emotional too. Yeah.
Michael Goulart
I didn't realize he was on that team.
Yeah, that was a small cyclocross team, and they got the wildcard invitation to the race because of Wout van Aert. That same year, he'd ridden Strade Bianche, and he finished on the podium there. It was his announcement as becoming a road rider, and his teammate died of a heart attack during the race. So the fact that he was still so conscious of that, and the first instinct he had when he went across the line was to point to the sky, and they were the first people he spoke about was Michael and his family, etc. That says all you need to know about Wout van Aert, the human being.
This is a question for Ed Langdon, but I'm going to give it to you, Kennan. Do the people of Roubaix feel like they're Belgium or Flanders or French?
Oh, that is a really good question. There's certainly more Belgians that are at the last few sectors because it's just right on the border. And although they're French when they're living on that side of the border, they've got a really similar mentality to the Flandrians.
Yeah.
They've got much more in common, the French in the north of the country with the Belgians, than they do with the French in the south of the country, down in Nice or somewhere like that.
The French in the south really stick to themselves a little bit, I think.
Yeah. And if I had that terrain as well in that backyard, I probably would too. You can keep your cobblestones to yourselves.
Yeah, because it did feel like Van Aert was winning a home race.
Oh, he was the hometown favourite.
Yes. The fans, if you do a little doom scroll on Instagram this morning, the fan support for Van Aert winning is crazy.
Yeah, and he's the most popular cyclist in Belgium.
Yeah.
Even though Remco's probably got some better results recently with winning the Olympics and world titles and so on, Liège twice as well, Van Aert is the most popular because he does the cyclocross as well, which they just love the cyclocross. Looking further into the season with him winning, how much does this help Jonas Vingegaard? Because I believe that this brings Wout back into his happy place, obviously winning, but it's going to make him an even bigger asset to Jonas Vingegaard because that chasing his own result and trying to get a stage win here or there to satisfy himself for the Tour de France, that comes more off the table and it puts him full throttle in support of Jonas Vingegaard.
He's the winner of Paris-Roubaix. He doesn't need to tick anything else off for the whole year.
That's right.
Yeah.
And for Jonas's confidence that he knows that he's got that guy there, that guy that he had 2 or 3 years ago who was winning Mont Ventoux stages.
Yeah, and he's back to his best. This is a guy who won that tour that you're talking about. He won the stage that went up Ventoux twice. He then won the individual time trial. He then won the sprint that was on the Champs-Élysées. And last year he won on the Champs-Élysées with the new course. He was the only rider to drop Tadej Pogacar last year.
Yeah.
All year.
That was a cool finish, actually. Is that staying?
Yeah, but it's a happy medium between the sprint style Champs-Élysées finish and last year.
Okay.
So they're doing an extra few kilometres after they go over the climb to give the sprinters more of a chance to get back in contact.
The sprinters sulk a little bit, did they?
Potentially.
Okay.
I loved last year's final
it was
stage.
good. Particularly some of the photos coming from that.
Going up that climb.
Oh.
Oof.
Yeah, and it'll be a different race in the dry versus in the wet.
Yeah.
Now, last year they had to neutralise the general classification because it was wet.
Yep.
Yeah.
This year it's open. We're racing.
Oh, it depends on the weather.
But if it's
dry,
sunny, we're racing.
we're racing. Yeah, which will be great.
Be awesome.
Great for the Belgians to get a classic.
Yep.
It's been a Van der Poel Pog pretty heavy classic season for the last 3-4 years. So Van Aert and Stuyven on the podium certainly just brings that patriotism back to Belgium.
Yeah, and leading into yesterday's race, the previous 24 monuments, Pog or Van der Poel had won 20 of them. So not very good at sharing.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head who else. Remco won at
Remco's
Liège.
won 2 at Liège.
Yeah.
Maybe it's of the last 25. Remco 2 at Liège. Van Baarle won Paris-Roubaix. Philipsen won Milan-San Remo. And Mohoric won Milan-San Remo. So it's 5. Yeah. So of the last 25 monuments leading into yesterday, 20 of them had been won by Pogacar or Van der Poel.
Which is crazy that Van Aert isn't in that.
That's why he's just been a bridesmaid for so long, so I'm so happy that he's not now.
Yeah.
Because he deserves to not be, because he's a Grand Tour rider, as well. These other guys aren't really, Pog is, sorry, but MVDP, until recently, hasn't really been a Grand Tour rider. Van Aert's been able to be a great teammate, ride for GC. Yeah.
Well, since he won Milan-San Remo, I think he's ridden 15 monuments and never finished outside the top 10.
That's crazy. I feel like Jasper Stuyven would have a similar record.
Yeah.
He's always there.
He's super consistent. He was one of the really good feel-good stories. One of the riders that I was disappointed to see him crash near the end was the Kiwi Lawrence Pithy.
Oh,
They were a story, Red Bull.
he was on one.
Yeah.
I feel like Red Bull, you look at their start list and you go, well, they're not going to be in the final, but they're going to be somewhere between 5th and 20th. But they delivered that, but they were in the race. They had 2 in the group when no one else had 2, Laporte and Van Aert. So it was 2 with 2. Yeah. And then another rider who wasn't in that group that we don't know which Van Dijk it actually was.
Yeah, it was just Van Dijk.
Is the one that finishes as well, because Jordi Moose ends up blowing up, but Lawrence Pithy crashed.
Yeah.
So that's incredible from Red Bull. I like how present they are in races right now. They're present in races. You look at the Basque Country that we'll get into. They are present in races. They're just not winning.
Yeah, they're just missing that 1%.
Yeah, I'm not sure where it's going to come from at the moment, but they've been really impressive. They look like they are a unit that all believe in each other, they back each other, and they're going in there with great confidence. I like the way they're doing it.
Trek are just in a little bit of a disappointment month. Milan hasn't won for, I don't know, maybe UAE Tour. Pedersen hasn't won since he's back. And Ayuso's pulled out of Basque Country.
He's been disappointing so far. I know he's had a couple of crashes and that's cost him, but for how much money they've spent on him, he's a number 1 draft pick that can't get a kick. It's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of pressure on him at the Tour de France.
Max, if you've got a number 1 draft pick coming in next year, which I don't know, we don't have many picks coming soon.
Well, I hope not.
Anyway.
No, because you've got to finish at the bottom of the ladder.
What are you doing with Ayuso?
I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt that he hasn't raced since the last crash. So I'm giving the benefit of the doubt that the Basque Country was purely just throw a dart at the dartboard. Let's go to Basque Country and see if we can get something. I'm not too worried yet.
Okay.
I am worried about their classics team though. Well, that's over now.
But
how would have their classics campaign been if you took Pedersen out of the mix?
Correct. I think Walshide did actually get a result last night. What did he come? 11th.
That's a good effort, but we hardly saw him.
Yeah, we did.
Just kept coming from the third and the fourth group and kept on coming back. And it's hard to miss him because he could be a second ruck for you. He stands at about 200 centimetres.
Is he 200 centimetres?
He's the biggest guy in the peloton.
That's huge. And I feel like Vacek, I saw Vacek heaps as well. Where was he? 22nd.
Yeah.
He was on the turbo, though, not that long ago. Like, this is still pretty remarkable that he is here. It was Milan San Remo his first race back.
Yeah, and he was fourth.
Yeah. And that was probably his most impressive race out of... Flanders, he was impressive. That fifth was pretty strong at Flanders.
Yeah.
He was in their wheel. He actually didn't have a mechanical. He may have had one early.
Yeah, had one early puncher.
Yeah, I love watching Mads Pedersen race.
Luck was on his side yesterday, and he just got dropped.
He never makes an excuse.
No, he's again my post matches that I've got. He did say that. He said something's up. I just can't hold on to the wheel.
Something's up. They're going real fast.
Talk about a guy who has a good race though at Roubaix year on year. Bissinger and Decathlon as a team.
Another ode to Decathlon. Paul, Olo Coy, and Tobias Lund Anderson aren't here. They're their big three, and they're getting results with Bissinger and Dan Hula. Like. Decathlon are on something right now.
Yeah, they're on the rise is what they are. They've recruited well, but they've recruited well off the bike also. They made a lot of changes in team management. They've got a lot of English-speaking sports directors. English is now the official language. They've become a global team. We've heard the rumours, which the team has denied, that they're going to register as a Swiss team so as they can avoid some of the taxes to keep Paul Saxas on the squad because other teams are coming out with a checkbook, and rightly so. I hope that he stays there. This has gone from a team that has been always a second-tier team, really, by comparison to the big group. They're now amongst the big four teams in the world, in my opinion.
Yep. And we'll see that later on in the...
Yeah, well, in the real rankings, Max's.
The Max's ranking.
Teams that win.
Max's top 5, and there's a surprise.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it.
There's a surprise. Is that a wrap on Paris-Roubaix?
Van der Poel got an endorsement from King James before.
He did. Did you see that?
That is so good for the sport.
Yeah.
150 million followers.
How good is that for cycling?
It did seem like someone had a gun to LeBron's head and made him read a script.
Yeah,
but
Canyon
Canyon
contracted.
Didn't seem as natural as I would have liked, but LeBron watching Paris-Roubaix. Did he watch, you reckon?
Who knows? I tell you who did watch? Reggie Miller.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, right.
Reggie Miller is a massive cycling fan. He's done plenty of mountain bike races. He's a genuine cycling nuffy.
I think we should work on trying to get LeBron in to talk cycling.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we should.
He didn't name any other Alpecin boys. He just said you and the boys. I'm not sure if he knew.
That's a giveaway.
If he knew Jasper Philipsen, but
yeah,
that was a good bit to watch. I did enjoy seeing LeBron as a cycling fan.
Yeah, getting that endorsement from he is a global superstar, LeBron James, is really good for the sport.
It's like in his feed as well. It's not like a social post that he sent out to Canyon to post. It's in LeBron's feed.
Yeah, that is sensational.
It's big. And I mean, the crowds, they never disappoint at Roubaix.
They're the biggest crowds I've seen.
San Remo, Flanders into the crowds this week.
Yeah.
Exceptional.
Yeah, it was. And there was a lot of racing on yesterday. They had the juniors, under 23s, the elite men, then the elite women. So there was a lot for people to see standing on the side of the road.
When's the social ride? The day before?
Yes.
Is that the model?
No. I want to see the men's and the women's races on separate days.
For TV rights? For a TV perspective.
So Kennan can get to sleep at 2.
Yeah.
The women's race gets a little bit lost in the coverage and the discussion that happens around it.
It wouldn't get lost as a spectator, though. That would be a great...
No, for somebody on the side of the road.
Yes.
And I wonder what it's like when you're in Europe, because we're in Australia, you're then watching it at 2:30 in the morning versus when you're in Europe, you're watching it at 6 o'clock. It's prime time. It's leading into the news. So it might be a different perspective over there. But to me, it feels like this is a cost-saving exercise as opposed to an investment in development.
Yep. The only other thing I had on my run sheet was Pogi in white nicks, white jersey, white arm warmers, white gloves, white booties.
Brave in Roubaix.
He looked good. He looked really,
awesome.
really good.
But, one of the key moments that stood out to me with Van der Poel, with how conscious he is about, he looks as if he rides between the raindrops. Yep. He got a water bottle from the team car and he washed off the mud from his shoes. That was with 35 Ks to go.
We probably didn't put an exclamation mark on what Pogi does now, actually.
Now that he's lost a race.
Now that he's lost Paris-Roubaix.
Hang on, he's ridden 4 races this year.
Yeah.
First, second.
Does he come back and try again?
Absolutely, he does.
And not just any 4 races.
No, all big races.
He only does big races now.
So next he'll do Liège, and it's going to be hard to see anybody beating him at Liège, best on Liège. And then obviously it's all systems go for the Tour de France, and he's using, I think, the Tour de Suisse as his preparation there, maybe the Tour of Romandie as well, and then hopefully the Vuelta at the end of the season.
And Lombardy.
Yeah, any thoughts on his ride?
Yeah, I mean, how much energy did he use in the 40K before the Arenberg?
A lot. And that cost him at the end.
I like to think we still haven't got a great... Next year, we're going to be talking, did we still see the best of Pog? So his first year, he crashed when him and MVDP were going head-to-head. His second year, he has to do 40K solo to get back on.
Yeah.
Could he have actually dropped Wout van Aert? Potentially.
Well, clearly the plan was for them to try and make the move going through the Arenberg forest, but he was only just getting back in contact there, so that got nullified. And the best outcome for the sport is that he does finish second, so he comes back again next year and keeps chasing it, like he did with Milan San Remo.
Although there was that myth that he comes to, for some reason, he said, if I win Paris-Roubaix, I'll go to TDU. I'm not sure why Paris-Roubaix is a real tick-off for him to come to TDU. It's not a massive form, is it?
Well, maybe that would mean that he's not going to ride Roubaix again once he's won it. So that changes the start of his season and what the structure is.
Yeah, he's looking for a warm summer.
Yes. And there's some sort of Aussie connection. His missus rides for Jayco.
She used to.
Yes.
Erskine used to ride for Jayco. The first ever World Tour race that he rode, the first pro race that he rode was the Tour Down Under. This is his worst result in a stage race. He finished 13th as a 19-year-old on debut.
He's got to come back to TDU.
He's got to clean up that record.
He's got to come back to TDU. So that's a wrap on Paris-Roubaix. What a race.
What a race. Basque Country. The other race that was on last week, Paul Sextus. Talk about playing on your home field. He's not playing on his home field yet, but is he going to win the Tour de France?
Not this year, but he certainly can at some stage. He's only 19.
Why not this year?
Well, because he's got a problem called Pogacar. But I believe...
Does he, though?
Yes, he does. Yeah. He is possibly second. He is possibly going to be ahead of Jonas Vingegaard, and he's only 19. He'll be 19 when he rides the Tour de France. And so many people are saying, oh, he's too young. Don't put him in the Tour yet. But different rules apply when you're at this level at that age. And Pogacar won it at 20. Why not put him in there at 19? And it might be the least amount of pressure that he ever has at the Tour de France. If he goes to the Giro or the Vuelta and gets a massive result there and then goes to the Tour de France, the expectations are going to be even higher again. And look at who he destroyed in the Basque Country. Florian Lipovic was third at the Tour de France last year. Yep. He's put more than 2 minutes into him. He's won 3 stages, made Lipovic look like he's nowhere near Paul Sextus. So why would you not take a guy to the Tour de France, take age out of it? Why would you not take a guy to the Tour de France who's beaten the bloke who finished third last year?
It's shaping for a great tour.
He's in that elk, though. He's in that bracket of Vingegaard, Poggi, and himself.
But he has not ridden a 3-week stage race yet. So he's not. It's still the big 2, and he's in that next tier until he proves himself across 3 weeks.
And then, I mean, just forecasting tour, Remco's there as well. I mean, all have our thoughts it's going to be, but then Remco has 4 other leaders that are going with him from Red Bull, and then Ineos are probably going to go a 5-leader team. There's going to be a great Tour de France.
Yeah. His descending was clinical.
Yeah. So he wins the time trial, and 13.5 kilometres, he put nearly a minute into Del Toro. He won that convincingly, and then his descending was as good as anything that we've seen. His ability, did you see the crash on the climb where a spectator fell over and he just weaved around?
Yes, he just avoided.
There's a drill around witches' hats.
Yeah, the spectator fell over or the car gave it a good ram.
Or one or the other. There was an obstacle on the ground.
He takes home 3 stages as well as winning GC.
Yep.
And the only stages he didn't win was because the break that's what happens when you have a clear GC leader. The break can win stages, and then he goes on stage 5. He goes, "Oh no, I'm over the break winning. I'm going to go back and win it. It's time." And I think stage 6, he was thinking about it. The one that August won, he was like, "Should I go?" And he did go, but then realised it might have been a bit too hard.
We were talking about him last week about, this will be good to see. Ayuso's there, Del Toro's there. Like this is the new crop coming through. And then to put a minute plus into them, and then obviously the other two unfortunately pulled out throughout the race, but still.
And how do you rate Primož Roglič right now? Is he still one of the best Grand Tour riders in the world, like top 5?
Yes, but he's happy to give up as soon as it's not going his way.
Yeah.
He's stubborn.
And Sexas made him look like he stood no chance of winning.
Yeah.
And this is a race that he has won in the recent past. So Paul Sexas, the French media and the French cycling public, they are losing their minds.
Yeah.
It is going to be chaos at the Tour de France when he makes his debut. And they haven't confirmed whether he's riding it this year or not. They're keeping that up their sleeve for as long as they can. But I would be shocked if he doesn't ride the Tour.
He's got to ride the Tour de France.
Yeah.
Has to now.
He was so good all week.
Imagine the letdown if Felix Gall rocks up.
No, he's definitely doing the Giro.
Okay.
So he's definitely riding the Giro,
yeah.
Felix Gall. So all the indications are that Paul Sexas will ride the Tour.
Yeah, and the way Decathlon are riding, he'll have 3 guys in there with him. Riccitello will be there.
He's been great, hasn't he?
The last one left.
Yep. Ineos bagged 2 stages as well, Max.
Ineos are the gift that keeps giving. You mentioned them before. Yeah. They're just in every race. He's a good young kid, Andrew August. That's his second result for the year. He won a break stage earlier on.
Which he won totally differently. He won that with a cold heart, didn't he? Because he sat on the whole time.
Flicked them. I actually had that in my top 5 races for a little bit, that the first Andrew August win. And then Axel Lawrence, we've been wanting that from Axel Lawrence for a while. He's like, those punches that you go, he's a punch, he's a chance, but then go to the same races as his MVDP and Van Aert and they just can't win and they get lost in the mud. He's found his race. He maybe is a Grand Tour breakaway type guy.
Yeah. He can win stages at Grand Tours. And I'll be interested to see what they do, Ineos, at the Tour de France this year. Obviously, they'll have Oscar Onley, Kevin Vauquelin. Both of them were top 10 finishers last year. Carlos Rodriguez has been a top 5 finisher in the past. But I can't see anyone from Ineos making it onto the podium at the moment based on, I know Onley was 4th last year, but...
No, Onley's been disappointing so far.
So far he has.
And so's Kevin.
But I think guys like Axel Lawrence and some of the other riders on that squad, maybe even a Kevin Vauquelin, should be given some freedom to hunt for a stage.
Yeah, Arendsman did do extremely well.
Brilliant stage wins last year.
Yep.
And
then Cofidis got their win for the year. They can shut up shop now. They can shut up shop. Arenberg, Izagiri, they've won 2 stages in the last little bit. Izagiri looked unbelievable again in the Basque Country, the home Basque Country. Basque riders love riding the Basque Country, don't they?
It's wet, tricky roads, tough descents, and he's announced his retirement. What a way for him to go out.
What a way. My perception of the Basque Country is beautiful because I went to San Sebastian, but apparently once you get in a bit, it's a bit wet and cold.
It's always wet.
Yes.
Even when you went there in September, so you went the back end of summer, it was wet, wasn't it?
Yeah, it did rain.
Yeah. Well, stage 6 took casualties. Not many people got through that stage. It was chaos. 6 degrees outside, filthy rain all day.
Mm. I don't know how you can prepare for that with clothes. Like all the advances that we've had in clothing, it has improved a lot, but it still gets through. It still gets into your bones and it still has an impact on athletes. And clearly it did in the Basque Country.
Sprinters World Champs, Skoda Prize. Tim Merlier showed up for his 2nd race day of the year.
Just back on Paris-Roubaix. Why? How much? What are we talking? 4 million euro? Pretty much the only rider that Sedal really have that's going to get him a result. And they send him to Paris-Roubaix. Why have they sent him to Paris? I get he can put Jasper Stuyven in a great spot just before the Arenberg, but he finished the race, Tim Merlier. And Jonathan Milan's gone as well. They're sending their best chances for wins to Paris-Roubaix to finish 30th.
With Tim Merlier?
Yeah. Why is he at Paris-Roubaix?
I don't mind. I like having him at Paris-Roubaix because of the job that he can do to help set up others.
But the risk.
Yeah, the risk is big.
Surely.
But he's a sprinter and he's accustomed to risk. I think that's the right spot for him. He's a big guy. He's grown up racing on cobbles. I like seeing him there.
He's not in the bus thinking he can win the race, though, is he?
No, he's not. But not many people are. How many people are in the bus thinking they can win the race?
Paris-Roubaix, slightly different, maybe more than Flanders, maybe 7.
Yeah, there's not many. There's not many teams that are sitting there thinking, okay, how are we going to win today?
Okay.
How do we get a result today? But realistically, there's not many that are on the start line at Roubaix believing they can win.
There's a midweek sprint race this week, Limburg, I think. It sounds something like that. If Merlier hurt himself because he fell off his bike on a cobble and then couldn't start at Limburg, surely that's not worth it.
That's like not putting your head over the ball in football.
But there's more risk at Paris-Roubaix.
Yeah, there's a lot of risk at Paris-Roubaix.
Did you call his name last night?
Once by surprise.
Yeah.
When I saw him.
When he found out he was in the race?
Yeah. No, we did see him somewhere near the front trying to do a job supporting Sturgeon.
Milan did a great job for Pedersen. But it's just like...
It's an expensive job.
Walshire could have done that.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah. But it was a good win for him at Skelter Price, and it was 30 years on from his father-in-law winning, the late Frank Vandenbroek.
It was chaos. Groenewegen. In fact, I'm a big fan of Unibet Rockets, particularly their content. And they had a camera on, I'm presuming, Reinders.
Reinders.
Because I'm presuming he's the bike in front of Dylan.
Yes.
And you see the crash. You see Dylan go down. Like, pure. Like, it's almost like, why is there not cameras and Oakley Metas in pelotons now? Like, watching that, I don't want people to crash, but watching that was a great thing for a spectator. They crashed at 7K. Someone missed a speed hump. Everyone went down. And then, really, it's only Merlier and Bittner that, if you look at that top 10, I mean, Jasper didn't really get out. It was a sprint. There were sprinters left, right, and centre on the start list, and really only 2 finished the race.
Yeah.
That footage, cycling needs more of that. We need to be able to get it live as well. Yeah, you can watch so many sports where you get really into it. With obviously a car, it's a lot easier in F1, and you're right in there amongst it. You hear the engineers talking to the driver, but for the ongoing growth of cycling, we need more footage from inside the peloton.
Yeah.
The post-produced stuff that you see on the socials, that looks great. But to take us in there, to take us inside the peloton, and the pushing and the shoving and the yelling at each other, and the sprinter telling their lead-out rider where to go, we need more of that.
Yeah, Matteo Trentin did a Flanders preview with Meta Glasses, and it popped. And everyone's like, why? Like, put these on you while you ride.
Yeah.
Great.
Melly's back.
He's not just back.
It was
he gapped them.
It was blasé in the way he went around it.
Yeah.
There was no structured lead out.
He's another sprinter that just needs his best mate there, and that's all he needs.
Yeah, he's the best pure sprinter in the world right now.
Yeah.
Philipsen didn't get a look at the finish line, kind of boxed himself in on the fence. The other thing, talking about the Rockets, though, was just Marcel Kittel in the team car and his passion and energy. It's exceptional.
Yeah, and it's consistent with the brand of Unibet Rose Rockets, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what they are bringing to the sport, as you alluded to about the amount of social media coverage that they're giving, they're really taking us inside. This is a team that was built basically on YouTube.
Yeah.
And they're doing a fantastic job. They're great for cycling. And I did not expect this raw energy and openness from Marcel Kittel. When he was riding, he wasn't robotic by any stretch of the imagination, but he didn't show too much emotion when he raced. He was always easy to deal with. He was quite a fun guy to interview. But seeing how invested he is as a sports director and wanting his guys to win is sensational.
He was clear best sprinter in the world at one point, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
But retired early?
Yeah, well, he retired when he was done emotionally. Like sprinting... that is too much risk. You cannot go in there with any self-doubt, particularly if you're a sprinter. And not everybody's on the same timeline. Andy Schleck retired at an age that was 5 years before Cadel Evans won the Tour de France. But Andy Schleck got the best out of his career that he possibly could, and he won a Tour de France.
Yeah. Well, if Paul Sextus retires when Cadel does, he'll have 12 Tour de France's to his name.
The only other racing there was a little midweek 4-day stage race in France that was won by Decathlon. Corbin Strong was there, was one of the favourites to win. Unibet Rockets got a stage with Venturi, I think. Oh, no, they didn't. Sorry, my bad. Ethan Vernon won 2 stages,
Yep.
which is what NSN are doing really well. And we had George Bennett on, and he spoke about that, trying to get results elsewhere. Send Binny to the Tour, and Ethan Vernon to be somewhere else just cleaning up.
Are they copying Astana from last year?
They could be. They could be just sort of getting some points. There's so many points available. There's a 1-week .pro race in China this week, and there's only sort of 2 teams going. And guess who's one of them?
That's the Tour of Hainan.
Yeah, guess who's one of them?
Case Body Wrap from Australia.
They are there, and Astana are also there, and they'll be sending the A's.
They don't miss a beat.
And the other team that needs points is Lotto Intermarché,
And they'll be there.
They're there as well.
They're there as well. So these races are happening quite regularly, but Uno X were able to get a win as well, which has been big for Uno X because they've had a lackluster year from such a good year last year.
Yeah, and I feel like they're racing differently. They've gone from being a really aggressive team that does look for the breakaways, and so far this year we've seen them with a strategy of we can stay in the peloton and go toe-to-toe with everybody else. They've been a much more conservative team this year. I want to see them back to their roots of we're going to create the race rather than wait for the race to come to us.
Yep.
Yeah, well, George was talking about in that interview, like the intent that they've got, the structures there. They're professional like everyone else is now, but like from a team perspective, the intent going to races and the vibes around the team are exceptional.
Yeah, it looks like it from the outside.
That's pretty much all the racing that's happened.
Yep. Should we have a look at the teams that win?
Yes. Well, yes. Sorry.
New segment, Keno.
Teams that win.
So obviously the UCI rankings, you can pick up points in China.
Yeah.
And you can pick up points for 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, so on.
Would that help the Carlton Football Club if they went and raced in China?
I'll keep my powder dry in that and not talk about other football clubs at the moment. This is actually the winning.
Max does his own UCI rankings.
This is your spreadsheet, Max.
This is my spreadsheet.
Stanley Street social rankings of the teams that win.
I knew I liked the way Max went about it.
Yeah. And you can see obviously our preference, that's total world wins. So the UAE have won 9, but they've had 17 wins all up. The key one here is to look at Red Bull. Red Bull have had a lot of wins. They've had 8 wins, but only one of them has been at the world level, which I think was Remco.
In Mallorca?
No, Mallorca wasn't a world race. It was in Valencia. I think Remco won the stage 2 time trial.
Okay.
But there's some good ones here, like Unibet have won 5, including a world race when Dylan Groenewegen won his. But have a look at the numbers at UAE, Visma, Decathlon are just producing.
And where's Ineos sitting now?
Ineos are 3rd with 15, just behind Decathlon.
Great start to the season for them. Who's picking up the tail end of the results sheet?
Unfortunately, DSM is behind a couple of even teams that I've even heard of.
Kern Farmer from Spain.
Van Roubiax. Yet to really see them in a race, but apparently they've won twice.
They've got 2 wins, though.
They've got 2 wins. DSM, and I'm struggling to see where it comes from.
So
I think it's Pavel Bittner wins something. They got to send him to the right race, and he wins something.
But DSN aren't going to China.
No,
and they're a team that has always been at the bottom of the list for budget. So they've made the most out of their budget. But this is a team that has had wins with Kittel at the Tour de France in the past. They've had Tom Dumoulin won the Giro when he was riding for that team. Degenkolb was won Monuments when he was riding for that team. They've always got riders that are in their early 20s. They get a good result and they get picked up by somebody else. Oscar Onley, most recent example.
Plappy was talking about this, though. He's like, Onley was great. Big fat payout from Ineos. But the payout came in December.
Okay.
There was no time to do anything with the money.
For DSM.
To buy riders for this year coming.
Buy
or Picnic Post-Nl, as it is now.
Buy a hotel in China and get them to race it. Van Uden is another big sprinter who actually won a Grand Tour stage last year.
Won a Giro stage.
So he's someone that can get a result for them.
Hasn't fired a shot yet this year.
And then first name, Max. I think Max Poole.
Yeah, Max Poole is good.
He's the guy who's going to get a result at some point for them.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
What's he winning?
They need to start getting some results somewhere.
Yeah. The other disappointment there is Tudor. Nothing much coming from them yet. Did they spend their money in the right areas? Is Alaphilippe the best way for them? Where's Stora? What's Stora doing?
Alaphilippe was their marketing strategy into the Tour de France last year. So that was an investment that was worthwhile, and you don't measure it just on the results sheet. Michael Stora got a lot of their prime results last year, kicked it off with a great win at Paris-Nice.
Yep.
Not sure, actually, what's on his program this year, but he's a really important rider for them.
Actually, sometimes I have written down what their actual win was. Let me see what Tudor's win was.
It's not just a spreadsheet, there's a document as well.
I haven't
Love
got
it, mate.
I haven't got Tudor's win down there, so I don't know what. Oh, no, there it is. Voisard won the Alula Stage 3, so it wasn't even a big race. It was in Saudi.
Yeah.
Which leads us to do you want to go to the couple of segments?
Yeah, let's go. The segments galore now.
So the best races of the year, Keno, is one that I do. And it's just had a change. So at number 5 is Stage 2 in Tirreno.
Remind me of that one.
Del Toro, Palazzari, and Van der Poel.
Yes.
Where's
on,
not Pavé.
On the gravel. The one on the gravel. That was amazing.
Yep. Then Stage 6 UAE Tour is in 4th, which is Plappy v Del Toro v Felix Gull.
Has that got
A natural bias to it.
Natural bias to it, but it was up a long highway. All sorts happened. Del Toro just blitzed him in the end. I'm trying to think of the 4th rider that Del Toro got away from. Was it Palazzari?
Yeah, it's
Palazzari.
Yep, the sniper.
Stage 4 Paris-Nice was when 3 Red Bull took on Vingegaard and it was 0 degrees. That was a crazy race.
That was an awesome
That
race.
was the 2 Van Dijk boys, were both in the group, which helped.
Yeah.
You could just say Van Dijk.
Yeah. It was Tiberi, the other rider that was at the UAE.
Yep.
Yes, Tiberi. Yes.
Milan San Remo, yes.
Milan San Remo was number 1.
Which we thought maybe wasn't going to get rolled all year.
Yes.
It was a very good edition of
one of the
Milan
best
San
renditions
Remo.
of Milan San Remo I've seen.
Yeah.
But it's just been pipped.
This is where we need the drum roll.
That was the most action-packed race I've ever watched. I don't want to see riders crash, but Paris-Roubaix does bring that in. That's the best race of cycling I've watched for a long time.
And you know, when time feels like it's going fast, that's a measure of things being really enjoyable. So last night for Paris-Roubaix in the men's race, we were in commentary 15 minutes or 10 minutes before the neutral zone. The neutral zone then goes for 7 kilometres.
Yep.
So you're in comms for 6 to 6.5 hours. Felt like 2 hours in commentary. Because there was something happening the whole time.
The whole time.
Yeah.
So that's that segment done.
Do you disagree with anything here, Keno? You got anything
He
to
doesn't
add?
love the highway
He
climb.
doesn't love the highway climb.
There's a whole lot of plappy bias on the UAE too.
Well, there was the Aussie Nationals were in the top 5 originally.
I reckon if you took Plapp out of it and you were a neutral observer,
The Aussie Nationals was an unbelievable race.
Aussie Nationals pips that stage from the UAE too.
Okay, and probably the Tirreno stage should be on top of that as well.
Yeah, it should be. That stage at the UAE, that was basically a Zwift race.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the race that's come out of the 5 for Paris-Roubaix to come in was the midweek Dwars of Landlin.
Okay,
The Ghana got Van Aert on the line, which was also a good race.
that was a good race.
And
Yeah.
Paul's work this week wasn't quite
the
enough.
50k attack, but it's just like, is that good to watch? It was good to watch, but it's like there wasn't much action. And then,
No, you
Yeah.
made the right decision.
thank you. And then that leads us to my next segment, and this is my rolling team of the year.
Okay.
And not much has changed with the top 2. UAE and Ineos are both still there. Number 1 and number 2, clearly. Ineos are just banking stages in every single race they go to, are banking a stage. GC-wise, not as good, but
We don't mind it.
I'm happy with the new Skybots.
Yep.
You happy if I use that,
Yeah, take it.
that nickname? And UAE clear 1. The Decathlon were 5 last week. They've gone back up to 3. 3 stages in a GC at Basque Country. And then also sending their B team to Paris-Roubaix and getting the top 10.
Yeah.
Is pretty impressive.
Making that front split is
Yeah.
important.
Well, they've got
Correct.
so much depth now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got they can send teams to multiple races and get good. I love the way Decathlon are going about it this year. They're my most improved this year.
They've hurdled Visma, even though Visma won Paris-Roubaix. I just feel like Sexius had a better week than Van Aert. That seems weird to say.
It's weird from you.
Yeah. So I've hurdled. And then Alpecin have come out. So Alpecin were in the top 5.
Yeah.
They've had, Van der Poel and Philipsen have both won World Tour races this year. But I just felt like the last sort of 2 weeks, they've dipped a little bit. And Unibet Rockets have come in. Now, hear
Why?
me out.
Okay.
One, they are clearly the lowest budget team that are in and around that circle. They're not even in the World Tour. They're a Pro Conti team. They've banked a World Tour race with Dylan Groenewegen, and then they're also banking races around with Dylan Groenewegen and Venturi. But they do the best content by a country mile, and they have me hook, line, and sinker loving cycling right now. Like, I can't wait to go into my living room after this and watch their 25-minute Paris-Roubaix doco. It won't none of their riders finish in the top 30, but it'll be the most compelling 30 minutes to watch. And I recommend anyone to jump on their channels. I feel like I'm promoting Unibet Rockets, but they are currently my top 5.
And I think a lot of people will agree with you.
Yep.
And from a commentary perspective, their kit pops off the screen, so it gives you an easy excuse to talk about them.
Oh, don't get me started on that.
They clearly knew that they were not contenders to win, so they put guys in the breakaway. The break didn't form, but they were trying to get themselves consistently in the breakaway. You got a best kit file.
This is something I'm working with, Keno.
5. Yeah, what's the next one say?
So Ineos, Jayco, and Unibet, I think, are the 3 best kits that pop.
Okay. I don't know how you've got Ineos in there.
You don't like Ineos?
Ineos with the white nicks, exceptional.
And then the bottom 3 are Cofidis, Movistar, and Asada.
Yeah.
Cofidis, like, what is that? Anyway, I'll post that during the week. I really like Modern Adventures Pooh Brown. I feel like it's a nice colour.
Well, it's an ugly kit, but it is marketing effective.
It is.
Because you can see it.
And Kern Farmers is nice.
Yeah, Kern Farmers good. NSN's done lucky to make it that far up.
You don't like the orange on the NSN?
Shocking.
I don't rate Tudor. I don't know how you've got Tudor up that high
really?
on the list. Yeah.
I think it's just the Melburnian of me likes black on black.
Swiss.
Yeah,
so
I don't rate it.
I might drop that one this week.
On the Unibase YouTube and just social content, early days of Green Edge vibes, when you used to watch Dan Jones' content, Backstage Pass, it was like, whoa, this is good.
Yeah,
this is what we want to see. The team vibe
was revolutionary.
The access,
yep,
and the way it's delivered is superb.
Yeah, yeah, they're so honest. Is that when you get cameras in the bus or you see it in change rooms, often it can look somewhat contrived, but with Unibet, it doesn't.
It doesn't. It's because their owner. Their owner's got a bit of charisma about him.
Yeah, well, he started the team, and he finished, I think, around about 15th in the under-23 Paris-Roubaix, maybe in 2014 or 16, somewhere around there. Yeah. So he was a good rider, not quite world tour, but he was very good, and he's taking us inside the sport, and it's an important step for cycling.
Just before we finish racing this week, there's a couple of midweek things that are relatively interesting, like Limburg. Amstel is on the weekend. Almost a monument, probably in fighting with Strati as the next big one.
Are you calling?
No.
Unsure if I do a preview or not. I actually really like this race because
it qualifies.
Well, none of the big dogs, MVDP,